Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Monday, January 17th. We're going to take a look at a Roblox today. I thought it'd be interesting to look here, and I had a request for it. So in order to sort of prepare for the week ahead, or at least, I don't know if prepare is right, but at least know what to maybe keep an eye out for if things could get interesting. Now, I do have a couple of boxes here, some shaded areas. I'll talk about what these are. To my mind, they play the most critical role at the moment. So this sort of gray-ish area here was a range that it was consolidating in after it kind of gapped down here. Right, it dropped a little over 9% on this day, and then pretty promptly filled that gap, as you see here, and then started to roll back down. And rolling back down, I had put in this red box, and this red box indicated to me sort of what I was looking at here was, hey, if it leaves this gray box to the downside, I turned it red because I just wanted to remind myself very clearly that if it dipped into this red zone, it might make its way through this entire red zone. And that's because it was signifying this entire gap when it gapped up 42% on November 9th, and it has now done that, right? And it's done that, and it sort of dropped itself a doji here as the most recent candle, which could be interesting because it could sort of just sort of like overly confirm that, okay, now that it's gone through this run up to 141, and now that it's down to 79, and it has filled this gap that it left on that huge gap up day, what's the decision point now? And to me, the doji kind of like really amplifies that. It's like, shrug. So what do we want to do now that we've filled that gap? And so to me, it should be pretty telling this week to find out what it wants to do. Now, by telling, I don't necessarily mean that it's going to be super clear of a picture of exactly what's going to happen, because it could just kind of start consolidating in this range, right? It could start consolidating and just filling in this gap a bunch of times, and that probably wouldn't feel like much of a decision. But in a way, it would be interesting because it would be doing this very similar kind of motion where it's building itself in a range, right? And that range would just at this point be in this red area, and would give us the same kind of indicator sign once it leaves that level. Now, we might not have as clear of a signpost of where it might be headed, meaning when it was leaving this gray zone and it was entering the red zone, my thought was, okay, probably going to fill that all the way down. So again, that's why I had it red, danger, be careful. Don't take a long position here was basically what that meant to myself. But if it does range bound itself in this red box now, that could provide the same type of sort of motion for the trader to say, okay, so when it leaves that box, if it breaks to the downside, look for it to move down and look for some possible support levels there. Those are also just guide rails, right? If it breaks to the upside, look to see what it wants to do and where some resistance levels are, and that could be your next guide rail or signpost for where the price might be headed. So range is helpful, whichever way. It's just sort of like annoying to wait for it to work itself out of a range, and just kind of like be patient. But the market does reward people who are patient, so keep that in mind for sure. Now, if it does break to the downside, it does have a pretty close in support level here. I would say around 76.85. You see previous support, it had resistance levels here, then it flipped to support, right, and confirmed that a couple of times, and it draws back here pretty solidly as well too, right? A lot of bodies of the candlesticks catching there and here as well. So I would say that that's probably the first level that I'd pay attention to. If it loses that, probably has some additional support right around here, 75.82, so about $1 away, which isn't bad for a stock at that price. I mean, be a bit of a drawdown, but not like another huge gap, we'll say, for example. Now, if it does break to the upside, I'll get rid of this because this is kind of inconsequential at this point. If it does break to the upside, let me actually pop this out to a whole year so I can just get a better view. So obviously this one in the range is going to be pretty strong, right? So I'd maybe look to see what it does if it does start to work itself back up through the range. That's probably not a bad sort of endeavor here to try to do, say, okay, if it does start to move up in the range, what's it going to look like even inside that range? Places that it could flip from resistance to support. So those to me could be pretty interesting. 84.69, 90.79. That 90.79 might act a little bit more just for like the very round 90, and even then the 84.69 might act a little bit more like just 85, just like the clear psychological levels of those nice round numbers and how traders want to sort of interact with those or decide that it's worth it or not, just with a very round number. And here 102, I don't see a bunch coming up at the actual $100 level. Where is that? But I mean, you kind of maybe be surprised if there wasn't something there. But I'm not going to put it at the moment because there's not a ton pointing to it from what's on the chart here, at least on the daily chart. So, take that for what you will. The other thing that I'd maybe look for here, if you wanted to take a more of a trend line approach, would be to see if it's able to break this downtrend resistance, right? So it's trapped it here. This probably draws like even accurately up toward here, and kind of has captured everything in here. So if you see it sort of being able to gain support at the bottom of this gap down, the gap up that it's now filled, and start to gain some strength in here, and it's able to break through this downtrend resistance, that could be a very good sign, obviously. And then certainly if it overtakes this like $84, $85 level, that could be a really good sign for the bulls. To the flip side, if it continues to get compressed down here, like I said, I would take a look at this 76.85 level and then this 75.86 level. This is confusing to say. And I would plot maybe something a little bit further down, just in case we don't know how crazy the market's going to be when things open back up tomorrow. You never know. It's not like we left a vibrant, non-choppy market. So about $70, I'd say $69, $70 would be that sort of like further away. Now there's probably some in between here that we come and take a closer look at if it does lose that 75 level and say, okay, so what lies between 75 and 69 or 70? But yeah, that's what I'm going to look for. I'm not glad that like people maybe got caught in this and had to deal with the drawdown here, but I am glad that that range that I had plotted here and then this sort of warning gap that I had put on the chart played out exactly as I would have anticipated it to, and that's only because it sort of like reinforces my trust in being able to distinguish and decipher what's going on the Roblox chart for future possible trades, like all of these things that kind of the hypothesis goes the way that you sort of anticipate it to, kind of that gives me some tickers that I definitely feel better about taking positions on. All right, folks, that's about what I got for you at the moment, but I'd be all interested. I don't have a position at the moment, but I'd be very interested if it does start to make some movement here, because it does have a lot of potential upside, and there's still a lot of hubbub around what Roblox could be with the metaverse potentially becoming quite a mover in the markets in the coming year or years, and so I'm pretty keen to see what could happen here on the chart. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week gets off to a good start tomorrow, and I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.